Welcome back, and moving on to our first segment for today. Talking about the family iftar that was attended by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi that took place, and also talking about the economic directives delivered by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, talking about some important decisions to be taken on the economic level. Over the phone, we have with us Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
So, first of all, Dr. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi announced that the next stage, or in the future, we will see more, let's say, chances for the private sector to share in the infrastructure projects and more on the economic development.
Yes, this is actually, the most important challenge confronting Egypt nowadays, how to improve the role of the private sector. The indicators mentioned for the last period, the decrease of the role of the private sector in the economy in Egypt, and this fact has been mentioned by several international organizations, as well as, when we monitor the performance of the Egyptian economy, this fact has been quite clear. But, you cannot achieve a better economic growth with a decreasing of the private sector. So from here it comes the importance of enhancing the role of the private sector, which will necessitate for the coming period to detect what challenges confronting the performance of the private sector. And when we talk about the private sector, we are talking starting from small business to medium to large enterprises, as well as foreign direct investment. So this should be one of the most important priority for Egypt for the coming period, so that we can enhance investments. And from enhancing investment, I hope that, this should be, moving forward according to a plan to concentrate on job-generating investment and on the local content of the industrial sector, so that we can, provide more opportunities of job all over our governorates, taking into consideration that we have nowadays the mega projects that Egypt have done during the last period, enabling Egypt to have very profitable opportunities of investment all over Egypt.
Doctor, the President also directed the government to start offering shares from state-owned companies on EGX.
Yes, this is a part of enhancing the role of the private sector, because the government has intensified investments during the last period. This was because, the government would like to enhance or speed up the growth of the economy by, and due to the private sector, they are not, willing to invest for such a percentage of investment. So the government has interfered during the last period in order to support investments, as well as, when we have such mega projects and infrastructure projects, not all the private sector are, these projects are not attractive for the private sector to large extent. So from here it comes that the participation of government in investment has increased significantly during the last period. And from here it comes that when we have nowadays we would like to enhance the partnership, which is the PP, private-public partnership in the economy, to encourage the private sector to come and invest. And we have actually several examples for that, like in Benban, generating solar energy. This can be a very important model in which we have a cooperation or a partnership between private and public investors.
Doctor, also there was an announcement for the launch of an initiative to strengthen local industries and reduce imports while granting a 5-year tax exemption. How do you see this as well?
This is actually very, very important step, and we as economists, we kept for a long time recommending such, increasing the local content of the industrial sector. The facts are quite clear. If you revise the balance of trade for each group of industry, like engineering industries, like electrical industries, you are going to find that the important content is quite high. This, can reflect to large extent that the value added in the Egyptian economy is still quite minimal compared to what you can do. And since you don't have a significant value added, you cannot generate opportunities of job. And this is the crux of enhancing the role of the industrial sector to generate GDP for the Egyptian economy. And increasing the local content should be quite an important goal for the coming period. We have a lot, as economists, we have a lot of studies to prove that, or to specify which groups of products we can enhance the local content. And there are thousands of examples that we can refer to, and this may help not only to increase value added and opportunities of job, but to improve the competitiveness of the industry, like for different groups of products, like food industries, like ready-made garments, like in furniture, in leather products, all these groups of industry. If you increase the local content, you may open more and more opportunities of job, as well as enhancing the competitiveness of such industry.
Doctor, the President talked about the challenges we are facing. And if I move on to talk about wheat, for example, talking about the steps that can be implemented to provide the local wheat farmers with financial and service incentives to increase Egypt's local wheat production and, of course, to reach the self-sufficiency.
This is quite important. Why? Because, we neglected for long decades, the role of agriculture sector in the economy, and the participation of the agriculture sector as well as the industrial sector in GDP can be considered as quite minimal compared to the opportunities of achieving that. Part of what we are talking about is enhancing food security. Since you cannot, rely on much of what you are you are using as food industry, like we are importing 90% of oil for food, of wheat. We are the largest importer in the whole world, #1 importer in the whole world, which representing, challenge for Egypt, taking into consideration the challenge nowadays of the Ukraine-Russian war. So all this necessitates the importance of achieving self-sufficiency of food and trying to generate and use your capabilities and opportunities. And with the new strategy of enhancing and increasing the reclamation of agricultural land, taking into consideration the ambitious program of reclamation of 2 million faddan and more nowadays, and enhancing the surface of reclamation into Sinai and into the new valley. I believe opportunities are going to be open for achieving self-sufficiency, more self-sufficiency of food. It's not easy to be achieved in a short period, but we are on the way to do that, and this is what necessitates and needs from the government to enhance the structure of incentives for farmers. This is what happened for the wheat nowadays, to encourage farmers to produce wheat and to be delivered to the government with a reasonable price, not only to be delivered with a reasonable price, but giving facilities and all types of services that may help the farmers to do such a task, which is quite important nowadays to have more self-sufficiency of food.
Talking about the role of the civil societies when it comes to the 2030 Sustainable Development Strategy, how do you see this role and how we can work more on it?
Yes, a lot should be done, and the civil society, can play a significant role for us nowadays, since we still have a high illiteracy rate, lack of capabilities, lack of awareness, specifically in rural areas with high poverty rates. I believe civil society can play a very important role, and President el-Sisi declared this year, 2022, as the year of the civil society in Egypt. Indeed, this is quite important. We need to activate the role of the civil society, because it's quite well recommended in this period, specifying the challenges confronting people, upgrading skills, increasing awareness. Hopefully, we can see a better role for civil society in this year.
Right. Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University, of course, always a pleasure having you with us on our show. Right, moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back with more on The Breakfast Show.